thank you both for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with
Thank
us.
you. Thank you.
Excellent work so far, but also alarming numbers, I would say. When you look at it, it's like, what do you mean this amount of Nigerians still don't have access to banking, credit, just financial literacy, financial tools to empower them for access? Talk to me about this. Let's start with you.
Okay, yeah, I think it's quite interesting, yeah, and I don't think the numbers were surprising, considering I've been a bit knee-deep in this space for the past few years. So when you look at the data we looked at in 2022, 2023, it shows that, okay, there's heavy concentration of formal financial services products in urban areas. So invariably, you have a lot of people in the rural areas not being able to access financial services. Then even those who are able to access financial services, they are usually just doing the bare minimum, the bare bones. Oh, I have an account, and that's it. And financial inclusion, as we all know, goes beyond just having a bank account. It means access to credit, access to pensions, access to insurance services. But the reality is a lot of people are still outside. So it's interesting that a lot of people don't even know that you could actually visit a POS agent and open a bank account. A lot of people don't know that. You think you still need to go to a bank branch. A lot of people don't know that you could actually open a bank account with your phone without going anywhere. So there's a lot of things that need to be done in terms of financial literacy. And yeah, let me stop there. So that
Interesting. I'm going to come back to that and how it affects the structure of the bank, the apparatus itself, when you say we can open these accounts at POS terminals and stuff like that. Yinka, let's talk about this access to credit. Like he said, bare minimum. I have an account. Honestly, I have an account. That's it. I don't know what else. Because the truth is,
what?
yeah, you're
You are just like at the entrance.
At the
you
entrance.
are not inside.
So what more can I do? I hear this credit thing. It interests me. Quite frankly.
So there's credit, there's mortgage, there's pension, there's like a whole, like everything in of financial services. You are in it and it's accessible for you. That's when you say you are financially included.
So
Credit.
how can we...
You said credit. You said mortgage.
Mortgage, insurance, pension.
Pension, I understand. That's like.
But the pension again is very low. The number of people that the last time I checked, I think it's less than 40 million.
But I want to ask now. I'll bring it into this room now. Okay. Do you have a mortgage?
No, I don't.
Do you have a mortgage?
I don't have a mortgage. I went to
So
a
you
bank
see
to
what I'm
access
saying?
mortgage. They told me I can't have it because of
Boom.
Why? Because
Just give me excuses. One, the earning capability, and then the fact that yes, they have it, but then the guy that I spoke with you is supposed to be in the customer information department doesn't have enough information to give me to say let me go and come back. No. So he doesn't know what to give.
Wait.
I went to a bank to ask for a credit facility, and he is telling me that, and then their customer service is calling me and telling me something different, something entirely different.
The person who is in charge
That's supposed to be
to
customer
educate
information,
you
to educate me
about
like
mortgage,
about mortgage, about
doesn't
credit facility,
know.
doesn't have the full picture.
So what bank is this? Sorry, no, don't take it. But why is this the situation in Nigeria? How is this such a poor use of the banking system?
Okay, so it's about financial education. You mentioned that people don't know that you can walk up to a POS agent and ask that you want to open a bank account and they'll do it for you. It's the same way that people don't know that, okay, you can go to your bank, if you've been banking with your bank for a couple of years, you can go to your bank and say, yes, what credit or what facility do I have access to? Even though they don't do it. I have someone in the US said, enter US, this was UK. After a couple of months, that money came into their salary. Someone approached them and said, okay, the bank that they're banking with, in less than 6 months, approached them, okay, this is what you qualify for. Without the person having to go to the bank to go and say, what do I, they approach the person and say, this is what you qualify for. This is what you can access. But here, it's not the case. But even when you go there, it's still a point of the person you're speaking with doesn't know what you qualify for in the first place. So there is education on the part of the users and on the part of the service providers, so the financial services. They don't know. The guys that are supposed to know doesn't know.
So can I add to that a little bit? So I have 3 experiences, and I'm going to be short with each of them. My own bank that I've been using for the last 10 years. I didn't know that they had credit facilities that I could use, and I've been using it for 10 years. They've seen my income grow over the last 10 years. I went to them and they said, okay, what company do you work with? I told them, oh, the company is not part of our community, so we need you to have a conversation. And I was just hearing a bunch of buzzwords, right? Then a second bank, I just opened an account with them, and they're calling me, oh, we have this promo on offer. You can get a card for free. I'm like, what am I doing with a free ATM card? I need tangible. Can you tell me about credit? Oh, sir, I don't know much about that. Let me get back to you. And it's over 2 weeks now. I don't have any information. Then the third one is what surprised me the most. I keep telling the story. You have a former CBN governor, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. The video is online. You can find it at an event. And he's talking about how he was an executive director at a bank, and he still needed financial education. He needed to get access to credit. He needed to get access to credit facilities, but someone else had to educate him.
Doesn't know which way to go.
So it's.
and so, do you think that, because in your report, one of the most shocking things that was there was that, we hear this in the 80s, 70s, 90s. Shocked to find that my grandmother, rest her soul, she had the shilling, from way back when, and also the other one that's like a brass that looks like a shoehorn, still at her home, way back when. But in 2025, your findings show that people are still comfortable saving at home instead of going to the bank.
Trust.
And so you say trust is one of them, but is it also the situation that the misinformation, or better yet, the lack of information that even the banking agents themselves don't have readily available is one of the reasons why it could be causing this?
Trust information. So you go to an agent. The agent you went to doesn't know the full length of the services that is empowered to offer. That's one. Then two, so there are cases whereby people said they went to do transaction, and then their issue with fraud, they got debited, and they couldn't access the services they paid for and all that. So you hear people telling stories like that. People that are not in the system already, that's like a barrier for them. If I go in, I will still be experiencing the same thing that people that are already in the system are experiencing. So it kind of like a shield for them to say, no, I don't want to experience this. So trust in the system, and then you have cases whereby you are reporting a fraud to a bank, and the bank is asking you to go to police station to get report, and then getting to the police station to get report, it's a job on its own.
It's just a maze.
So I just I'm not doing it again. And you have people that are like, okay, I don't even want to do banking. Let me just keep my money in my. And people that are educated, that have that experience. So how much more people that are not educated or as educated as?
Can I start from the basics? What happens to my money when it's deposited at a bank? What does the bank do with it? How does it help the economy of the country? Let's start there.
Okay. I am not that.
Okay.
But then,
because
the CBN wants less money outside.
Less money outside. Okay.
More money in the banking system.
So when it's outside, like when Judith saves under her pillow, how does that work adversely for the economy?
It doesn't add to the economy
at all.
Because
you just put a bag on my back.
Because the interest is not coming in. The bank is not using the money to do anything. It's not going to CBN. CBN doesn't have an account of what the money is being used for and all that. So it doesn't really go.
So who needs to be educated now?
Everybody.
From everything that we have said, that even if the institution itself is unaware of how it's supposed to use these amounts or the system itself, and then the people have no trust in the banking system, where do we start from to help reform the system? What's your suggestion, Emmanuel?
So I think, we could play it in different ways, right? Okay. We could start from the top down. I know at a point, 2019, 2020, the CBN was trying to incentivize the banks to actually lend more. So the loan deposit ratio and all of that. And they've been playing around with the cash reserve ratio. So the idea is the bank must keep certain amount of money with the CBN and lend the rest out. And this is the amount of deposit you should have at all times. But I think so far so good. Those beyond the basic account opening service and all of that, personal lending, and when I've talked to people who work in financial services, they feel like it's very, very risky to lend to regular people, right? So they play it safe. They lend to HNIs, they lend to the government, and it's guaranteed returns. You don't hear stories. And we look at the fintechs that have attempted it. You've seen the stories on TikTok and all of that. These companies chasing people who are owing them money.
To add to that, too, you have these fintech guys having non-performing loan as high as 60-70%.
Yes.
Because the risk they are taking. But then the traditional guys, their NPL is around, single digits.
Yeah. Guys, speaking of fintechs, right? Fintechs, we all tout them as groundbreaking, right? But somewhat, they also still can't be able to access most Nigerians in there. What exactly are we talking about here in terms of access? Why has fintech, what's touted to be the solution or the innovation that is direly needed in our financial sector, still not cracked the code when it comes to access?
They can't crack the code because of the barrier for them. So for most fintechs in Nigeria, before they can be able to offer you services, you have to be in the banking system already. And they are not empowered. Okay, so for someone that is not in the banking system, to be in the banking system, you need a BVN. And to get a BVN, you need to walk into a branch of a commercial bank. Microfinance can give you BVN. Payment service bank can give you BVN. Fintechs can give you that. So if the fintech guys cannot do that, so that means so it's basically you have to have a BVN first. You have to be in the banking system first before they offer you services. Of course, there are fintechs like that are doing investing and all that.
Right.
But then you need to be in the system before they can offer you the services.
But why is BVN numbers so low? Why is it that the owners? I was shocked as well when I saw that.
The numbers here, 311 million bank accounts, but 65 million BVNs only.
It's low because in Nigeria, so as of last year, we have about 4,400 plus commercial bank branches in the country, and they are not evenly distributed. There are states in Nigeria that have less than 20 commercial bank branches. Like, not a single bank now. Like, all the banks in that particular state, they have 20 branches. So now tell me, which means they are likely not in every local government. They are probably concentrated in the state capital. So you have cases where someone that is in remote area with no banks, they can't get a BVN. Because getting a BVN means traveling kilometers, tens or hundreds of kilometers to get to where they will get that. So that's that. So until you break that barrier of entering the system, we will still, in 10 years' time, we'll still come back and be saying this.
So, interestingly, so layering on top of that, so Yinka just talked about entering the system. Now, even when you are in the system, those who are innovating in financial services are also handicapped. So let's even take credit, for instance. All the fintechs trying to democratize access to credit. They don't have access to most of them don't have access to credit bureaus. So they don't even have data on me and you and our spending habits. So they price us at a very, very high margin. So you're seeing fintechs giving you 360% and per annum interest rates. Wow. Ridiculously high.
Ridiculous.
And when it comes to loan recoveries, banks are also better covered. The CBN introduced something they call the Global Standing Instruction in 2020 that allows any bank to debit your account. So if you're owing Bank A and you run to Bank B, Bank A can still debit your account in Bank B because it's connected through a BVN. But most fintechs don't have access to that service. It's most commercial banks. So I'm not even surprised when our data even show that more people get loans from banks than they get from fintechs. Which, of course, you should expect that, with all the marketing going on, you should have more loans.
Yeah, maybe they are wary of people calling them with death threats and doing soft obituaries. And the threats are a lot, right? But there's another thing that we're not touching on. It's the hidden charges. Do you think that, look, there was one time in our lives where at the end of, I don't know if, I haven't seen that in a while, maybe because I don't use my savings account anymore from that one bank, But the thing about it is that at the end of each month or each year, you get a notification for, say, interest if you accrued on that savings, right? But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't even rub, It doesn't. Emmanuel is shaking his head. And so he asked the question, do you think this hidden charges is one of the things that deter people from going there to add it? Because if it's time for them to deduct their maintenance fee and the rest.
At the end of the month, you get that notification.
One of my bank accounts deducts, they give me savings interest at the end of every month and it deducts the money, so it balances out.
So they give and then they take. Give with one hand and then take with the other.
Give it and take it.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Wow. But the interesting thing here is that, once again, back in the past, you could actually access these credit facilities, these mortgage facilities. My father bought cars. I was privileged to buy one or two, and then all of a sudden, it all stopped.
So how many cars have you used in your lifetime?
It all stopped.
Yeah, how many?
What exactly is responsible for that? Is it the economy that we're going to blame for this? Is it the lack of financial education, or whether the banks itself or the individuals? What's stopped all of this, access?
We can partially blame the economy. It hasn't been rosy the last 10 years or 20 years thereabout. Yeah. That's one. Now, with what you just said now, back then, right now that we have more, you have a system like the NIN, like the BVN, it's supposed to make it much more easier. But it's not. It's not making it much more easier. And then you have a cases whereby the CBN is saying this, and then there's another agency that is saying something entirely different, that this is all you can do, this is all you can do. So there is no synergy between agencies to say, okay, yes, agency A is saying you can do this. Agency B is waking up the following morning and saying, no, you can't do that. And then it's creating confusion on the people that are providing the service. That, okay, which one am I doing? So with the system that have put in place, BVN was fantastic, was great. Like the potential.
And it has, we have never scratched the surface.
We've not even touched it at all. We've not touched it at all. The BVN, so now imagine harmonizing the BVN and NIN together. So if you make NIN what BVN is, because there are more people with NIN than BVN. So that means my grandma in the village, my aunt in the village that only has NIN, can walk up to an agency banking and open an account without having to say, yes, I need to get a BVN first. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
So we have all this, and in most cases, they are all working in silos. So BVN is doing, CBN is doing with BVN and the banks. You have the federal government doing NIN, then you have the INEC doing their own, and then another will come tomorrow.
If the economy gets any better, do you think these infrastructure would perhaps work?
Okay. So
inadvertently, I'm asking if the economy is to blame.
So if the economy gets better, but we still need to fix the underlying factor.
Yeah.
The structure.
Like that structure, that framework for the providers to rely on, we still need to fix that first. If we don't fix
Who's vested with that responsibility?
So CBN as the apex bank and one is the regulatory authority in terms of banking, shoulders that. Then there are other regulatory authorities in financial services that are latching onto it. But then it's still CBN. CBN started the Financial Inclusion Initiative 2011, and so it seems as if they started the champion and then the tone just died down. It wasn't as aggressive as it was when they first started.
Isn't that the same with everything when it comes to Nigeria? I mean, cashless policy, when you think about it, it's the same old thing. And we all argued when they came up with that initiative, we did say that cashless policy was not going to work. Nigeria wasn't ready for it. We don't have the infrastructure underlining structures to make it work. All the foundations have been laid for such. And so Dexter asked a question about accessibility and how to reach areas. You guys cover 36 states plus the FCT. What state or what area shocked you in terms of access to finance that blew your socks off? Emmanuel.
So I think in terms of regional coverage, I was actually shocked to see that it's pretty much the same story. Like, it's not like one region had like a major disadvantage. So in the south, you still have places where access to finance is an issue. In the north, you still have places where access to finance is an issue. So I think that's like a major thing to think about, where no one region has a monopoly of, oh, I have everything covered when it comes to financial services.
So that means even Lagos here, there are people that don't have access.
You'll be surprised that you go to some communities in Lagos and like to get to a bank, they have to spend close to 8,000 or thereabouts.
But I agree.
Or ride bicycle, or ride the boat to get there, roll a boat to get there.
Also in your findings, something very interesting that I'm reading here is the fact that gender, location, and also age played a very big role in this access. So could you please help us out with that? You know, demography and location, how does that play in to access? Do men have more access than women?
Yes,
Of
men
course,
have more
now,
access.
you know.
Well,
Of course.
Men are,
That's what I say, but why?
6 in every 6 in every 10 people without bank accounts are women.
6 in every 10.
Yeah,
And this
about
is
6
a cultural
about that
reason?
So that is still a bit tricky, because the last one we did a report in 2022, 2023, and it echoed the same thing. Echoed the same thing, that okay, there are more men in the banking system than women.
Okay.
There are more men in the banking system. And so what does this mean in terms of financial inclusion in the long run?
So it also means that in the long run, these women that are not in the financial, that don't have a bank account to start with, they are already excluded from other services. They are like from accessing, say, insurance, or they are already excluded because they are not in the banking system to start with.
To add to what he's saying, right? I think there's also a cultural perspective to this, where historically a lot of women are not being able to access things like you're not able to get land easily as a woman in most African countries. I have a tech background, so a lot of founders who are women, they experience the same issues when it comes to raising funding and all of that. So even when it comes to business, it comes to owning assets and all of that, there's a lot of disadvantage. And for some women who even tend to do this, they go through their husbands or go through their brother. So the brother manages the land that was left behind for the woman and things like that. But all of those things are not even captured. It's very, very difficult to capture these things in the data, right? But from a cultural context, you see that women are disadvantaged when it comes to even incentivizing them to, what is the incentive for them to actually come to meet you? So, which is why I'm impressed with some of these fintechs that came around and said, okay, instead of coming to meet us, let's come to where you are, right? And we see some stories that these guys are celebrating women coming to the financial services sector, because you are not, a lot of people who are building for people who are tech savvy, who are upwardly mobile and all of that. But a lot of these people, they trade in Alaba, Oshodi and all of that, and they keep their money in on their
These are
pillow.
traditional.
A draw, family meetings.
Those are systems they can trust because it's cultural, right?
Yeah.
So if you can now go to meet them where they are, if you can now build with them in mind, right, instead of focusing on, say, bank branches.
So what if our banking system in Africa, in Nigeria, is not attuned to our culture? What if it needs a bit of tweaking to actually embrace the culture as well? Where you could factor in things like tradition, women, even age. Oh, let's step out of that. Let's talk about the tech infusion here and how young people are beginning to be the major part of the market out there.
Yeah.
Do they have access to finances when it comes to them having startups? How does that play in to the Yinka, please? Or do you want to go?
Emmanuel.
Okay, so that's an interesting one. So when it comes to finance, Yinka, you can correct me here, but a lot of the funding for startups do not come internally. It does not come from within Nigeria. So a lot of the tech startups are raising money from foreign investors. So you hear global hedge funds like Tiger Global, SoftBank, and all of that. We have a few.
How are they able to access these fundings from outside
venture capital.
the country?
They go for
easier than
networking.
Networking. They go for more the tech events where they go and pitch they do the what's it called the pitch deck where they like sell their products, and the investors are all seated there, and then they go for serious.
So in the long run, we're not
A, B,
investing
C,
in our own. Instead, we're actually exporting it outside.
Yeah, basically. But then, to add to what you say, so you just look at, I would say that's where the money is. Because
exactly?
that's where the money is, the foreign investors.
The foreign investors.
Okay, because you have foreign investors that will cut, probably the minimum check they will cut is about $1 million.
Yeah.
But then, come to Nigeria, come to Africa, so you have investors whose the largest check they are cutting, they are $500,000. Yeah, some are doing $10,000, some are doing $20,000. So, because the money is there, so that's just why I'm bother myself with 10K, 20K.
And it takes a long time for you to get that 20K, because you would woo the investors take them out for dinner, you woo them continually. This is a
Is that
year
what you
process. Yes, now. Oh, are you joking? You know, to get 20K. But in your report, you said, and to paraphrase it, that, you know, we have to go beyond banking. Are traditional banks not going beyond banking? Are they not doing enough? I mean, with their messaging, we've seen their road drives, we've seen the ads that they do. Are they not going beyond banking? Or what does beyond banking look like?
So beyond banking is not only for the banks. So now beyond banking would be the insurance company stepping up, pension company stepping up, or mortgage stepping up, like all phase of financial services coming to say, okay, yes, we can offer these services to you, and that's one. The other part would be now going to where these people are, not just Lagos, not Abuja, not Port Harcourt, like going to the rural area, because that's where these people that are excluded, that's where they are. And these guys, you run Facebook ads, the chances of them seeing it, you run TV ads, the chances of them seeing it, probably people that don't watch TV or listen to the boss is, I mean, the highest probably listen to radio. You do road shows. The road shows are in the cities, in major towns.
Localized.
Yes, it's not saying let's go to my hometown in Ogun State to see no, it's doing it in Ikeja, doing it in Surulere, doing it
I'm very
there.
interested in something you said about the inclusion of these other systems, like the pensions especially. We've got a sizable amount in pensions. And I'm wondering what's just sitting down there doing.
That's what people have.
How
They
can-
pay their money.
Let's not talk about that, please. In any case, how can they be more inclusive inside of the system? How can I be able to, I know it is possible, I've heard that it is possible, but I've not seen that it is possible.
So,
Emmanuel.
Yeah, so one interesting thing that I found out this week, and so a lot of the things I've found out in recent weeks are surprising me, considering how long I've been in the financial system. I didn't know.
It's like we keep getting educated. No matter how
Trial
long
and
or
error,
when
oh, Nigeria.
Yeah,
Oh,
but so
gosh.
I found out that I could actually pay for mortgage with my pension,
Oh,
my
yes,
existing
but
pension.
it's accessing it that's the problem.
So how do I even start? Where do I start from?
What is all this red taping
And
and
there's so much
bureaucracy
hush
routine?
about
Yeah.
it. They're not letting you know that you can do
Education.
this.
No,
Education,
but to some extent, the pension commissioner has been pushing that, and then like I've known for a long time that yes, you can use your pension to part of your pension to finance mortgage. You can access your mortgage.
you didn't educate
I mean, I gave him one tip. A couple of weeks ago about he doesn't know that he can access that thing from his bank. Like, oh, you don't know that, but then that's not in the bank, but that's aside. So that you can access your pension after you're out of the job for a couple of months or thereabout. It's not like they are really doing
A fraction
to push
of it.
that, but then it's really not out there. And there's also the fact that not enough people are even in the pension scheme to start with, and there's a micro pension. That's another conversation.
How can we go after organizations that have refused to remit pensions as well?
Very personal,
Some
very
persons
personal
don't know.
question she's
So
asking here.
for personal questions, I mean, for that, so that would be taken up with the.
Yeah,
there's
I'm just saying because
There's this agency in charge of monetary that does. Mississippi. I can't remember the
Pencom.
acronym. Is it? No, it's not. No, Pencom is the insurance.
company.
But then you working with Pencom, they work with. There's one agency that takes care of what they call it.
We'll get that back.
Yeah,
I
we'll
can't
get
Yeah.
remember the name of the.
Don't worry. When you
I
do
mean,
remember.
gentlemen, let's talk solutions, right?
Yes.
As we
Yes.
close the curtains, it's very important. Let's prefer solutions. We've talked about fintech, traditional banking, lack of education, lack of access, gender inequality when it comes to access or even bank accounts, BVN, how we can get more people onto the system. There's so much. Let's prefer solutions. So let me start with you, Emmanuel, and then before you take it.
Yeah, so in terms of solution, I think a platform like this is a good way to start, right? I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this will be hearing a lot of things for the first time, right? And not even knowing that, I think what this would be able to catalyze is more people will be going to their banks to ask questions. When I went to my bank, the queue for people who want to come and take ATM was long. People who want to come and complain about transfer charges was long. But the queue for people who want to ask about credit, there was nobody there. Somebody actually come and open the door, right? So that's one thing. So financial education, financial literacy from platforms, then also holding a lot of all these agencies accountable for a lot of things that not remitting pension and things like that. So yeah, I think that's
You guys want to add?
start from.
Yes, to add to that, aside education, and now the education now is now going to be on both hands, on the part of the people, the users, and on the part of the service providers to make sure that their agents know the full length of what they can offer and all that. So the other one would be working to make sure that like NIN and BVN, the two can come together to make sure that to encourage more people, to have more people in the banking system and have everyone financially included.
Gentlemen,
Add a bit of education to that as well. And they think we
gentlemen,
have it
many
all.
thanks. I appreciate you for coming on. Yinka Awosanya is the head of research at Interpoint, and of course, Intelpoint, and of course, Emmanuel Paul, managing editor at Finance in Africa. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us. Here's where we've drawn the cut.